I was waiting for My Hero Academia to actually end before making this video, but I don't think I can delay it any longer. As you guessed by the title of this video, I'm not too happy about the current state of My Hero Academia, which is a shame because I like this manga and world and I want to explore it a bit more. I don't want to see it end on such a rocky note. The final act Saga has been criticized by fans for moving too quickly and for moving too slowly. This criticism didn't really make sense for me until we got into the final war arc proper, in which case the pieces fell into place. If this final war arc is supposed to be the grand finale of My Hero Academia and the climax of this story, then it's missing one thing: stakes. We don't have any stakes because we don't have much in the way of setup. My first reaction to the idea of doing a second war arc is, okay, we practically just got out of a war arc. Why are we doing another one this soon? What's on the line that would justify having the war arc now? What stakes have been raised that will make this one eclipse the previous one, especially since this one is the finale? The first war arc, Paranormal Liberation War, had the highest stakes of the series so far. We had multiple threats which needed to be neutralized on the spot, such as Shigaraki getting an upgraded decay quirk, and then we just throw in All for One on top of that, which makes him even more broken as hell. Then we have Gigantomachia. Then we have the multiple lieutenants of the Paranormal Liberation Front, which basically Shigaraki now has an army because he assimilated the Meta Liberation Army. What happened to this great army at the end of this war? Gigantomachia got arrested. Redestro got defeated. Trumpet got arrested, and thus their political power ended up going down the toilet. Twice is dead. Getten was arrested. Mr. Compress was defeated. Of the 9 lieutenants on this stage plus Shigaraki, we only have Toga, Toya, and Spinner. I guess we have Skeptic, who counts for something, but he really doesn't have a storyline, he's just the help. Toga gets an admittedly undercooked storyline about the nature of love and acceptance with someone whose quirk involves drinking blood, and it really could have used more development. There's also the matter of Toya versus his family, now that his identity is out in the open, and how the public will react to Endeavor after that. That could use some more time. Then there is Spinner, who is the most frustrating of these characters because his storyline got the shaft, and if you're an anime-only watcher, it got the shaft big time. There's a lot of disdain for people with mutant types quirks in this universe, and it's a storyline that needed to be fleshed out more. Unfortunately, the foundation was not set. So when Spinner basically becomes Shigaraki's Gigantomachia because of All for One, there is very little in the way of payoff at all. In fact, I think he regresses because he loses all his intelligence to become essentially Shigaraki's Gigantomachia. As it currently stands, the villains have a narrative problem. Sure, their ranks could have been replenished with the criminals from all the jails that were broken out of, but still. It's hard to justify Class 1A, Class 1B, and any heroes and hero students with a pulse across Japan working to fight against just fodder. The issue with having the villains, especially the named villains, take so many casualties is that it inherently lowers the stakes. We like having names, personalities, histories, 2 faces, and powers. It's not good to take down several of those. It's just villain making 101. If you can't make them complex, then make them interesting to watch. And we've basically taken out things that are interesting to watch, like Redestro gaining power from stress, or Getten controlling ice. It's boring to see named characters fight fodder. It's interesting to see them fight lieutenants. That's why, during the Tartarus prison break, I wanted to hear All for One say something akin to, "The Demon King needs his nobility," and summon a bunch of villains All Might had personally dealt with himself. That way, you can give the hero students and the pro heroes a nice focal point in the fight. It helps recontextualize the line All for One gave to All Might about, "Your fist crushed one after another of my comrades. Many were forced into the shadows, underground, while you were extolled as the symbol of peace." If we made characters like Kunita be All for One's former nobility in the criminal empire, it would give him more of a reason to exist. Quick side note, the fact that we're debuting villains during the final war arc itself says a lot about how poorly this is all constructed. In terms of practicality, Kunita might as well just be some random serial killer Aoyama and Hagakure defeated. Speaking of heroes, we have a problem in that department as well. I do appreciate the small tournament arcs we get from time to time showing the hero students off and their skills and having these amazing moments, but the problem arises when you realize the focus in those arcs is less about them as characters and more about them as heroes. Yes, not everyone needs novels to be a good character, but given the setting, I feel like we should be doing a bit more with these characters. We're in school, so why don't we have them do more mundane school things to do wonders for characterization? It's why I'm one of the few fans on the internet who doesn't absolutely detest My Hero Academia, aka the Cultural Festival arc, because it did give the spotlight to a lesser character. Now, the book could combine some of these points. Here's how the book could have taken the lesser characters and developed the plot at the same time. Just do a bunch of missions. Don't jump straight into the final war. Have the students break off into small teams and have them take missions from there. Have the likes of Shoji, Koda, and Asui take a mission to help the heteromorphic communities and stop All for One's forces from stoking political conflicts by making them join his side. Maybe All for One could be giving so many contradicting promises to each group. Just because someone is a mutant by appearance doesn't mean they're willing to get along with all mutants, so maybe there's something to gain out of that. Instead of just having Hagakure randomly discover Aoyama's treachery and Midoriya just beating him and his parents up, have Hagakure play a game of cat and mouse, where she eventually discovers Aoyama's skullduggery. Another side note, I never liked this mystery because A, All for One has been in jail since Camino, and B, there really was no mystery around it. It was just something thrown together at last minute, which honestly is quite sad. I literally wrote down like half a dozen story ideas that could help with building up to the final war. One of them was making Mineta useful. We all know All for One has spies in the refugee camp that is UA High School right now, so let him try to send a spy to seduce Mineta with the purpose of getting information out of him, and Mineta basically gives the spy junk, nonsense, and disinformation. It's these small things that could make the world so much more lively and compelling. And if there's one weakness My Hero Academia has, it's that the smaller stories that help fill the world out are missing. Yes, I'm aware of the spin offs, but if we're talking about making it accessible to readers of the main series, then the spin offs are a really bad thing to do in that regard. I literally toned down my Marvel DC reading because of all the franchises that began branching out. There's a lot of potential for good setup, but we're not taking them. Why is a bit of a different story and possibly a different video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider liking, subscribing, and tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.